Hello, quilt artisans. My name is Shonda, and welcome to my channel Under the Needle. Now, I'm here to give you 4 reasons why you might want to consider using fleece to back your quilt. Now, number 1 reason, it is perfect for quilting on your domestic. Now, if you're going to bring this to a long armor, I can't help you there. Okay, I've never had a quilt long armed. So if you're going to bring a fleece-backed quilt to a long armor, the first thing that you're going to want to do is check with your long armor to make sure that they'll even do that, because some people have some pretty stringent requirements. So we're not talking about long arming today. This is all home. So number 1, to me, fleece slides easier on your domestic machine than quilting cotton. So for me, at least for me, when I quilt a quilt on my domestic machine that has fleece on the back, I don't have to use my Supreme slider or any other tip or trick or tool. I have no problem getting that quilt to glide through. I don't really have any drag. To me, it's easier to quilt. And maybe that's because of the weight of it. I don't know. But and you're only quilting, you only have 2 layers. So you have your quilt top and you have your fleece. That's it. So you don't have 3 layers. So I don't know if that's why it's easier. I don't know. But for me, it just glides beautifully. I like the way fleece glides through the machine without drag. And also, you don't have to do any kind of dense quilting. A lot of times, it's because of the batting, right? The batting is the reason why you have to quilt 3 inches apart or 5 inches apart or however many inches apart. It's because of your batting. And if you don't do that, then your batting can start to beard and shift and do funny things inside your quilt. So when you don't have any batting, you don't have to worry about that. And you only have 2 layers. So you can literally, I think the first time I ever put fleece in the back of the quilt, I tied it. I used no batting. So I had a top and it had my backing and I tied it. So, and these were probably 8-inch squares, and I put a button in the middle of each 8-inch square. That's how far apart. So all of my ties were a minimum of 8 inches apart. Quilt was fine because you don't have that batting and you don't have to worry about the batting shifting. So it is perfect for quilting on your domestic machine because you can just do loose, wide quilting. Like your quilting can be 10 inches apart. Like it's ridiculous. So really, really great for that. Number 2, less seams. It's easier to make your back. Standard quilting cotton is 42 to 44 inches. Fleece is 58. So if you are doing, say, a baby quilt or a lap size quilt, you can do up to 50 to 54 inches wide and not have to piece your back. So if my quilt is 50 by 70, I can just get 2 yards of fleece and back my quilt. So super easy, much, much easier to me because you don't have to always piece your back. Another thing for me, number 3, to me, it's easier to match. For me, trying to match the back of my quilt to the front of my quilt is difficult because I'm using pre-cuts, and I might be using a pre-cut I got 2 years ago. So it's like I need to find something that I can put on the back of my quilt that matches the front, and it might not be possible to go back and try to get more fabric from the same line, right? So what do? You got to find something that matches, and that can be a hassle. You can also just go plain solid, but I don't like plain solid. So when I think about putting so quilting cotton's going to run you, $13 a yard or whatever like that. And so if I can go that route if I want to, or if I decide to go fleece, I can do that if I want to. But if I want to go cheaper, then you start looking at like Kona, right, which is cheaper than regular quilting cotton because it's solid. But I don't like solids on the back of my quilt. I really don't like a lot of solids, period. And so I'm just not a fan of that look. But when it's a solid fleece, completely different. Solid quilting cotton, no. Solid fleece, perfectly lovely. Doesn't bother me. I don't know. Maybe, I don't know if it's a texture thing. I don't know what it is, but I can't put solid Kona on the back of my quilt. I can't do it. I don't like it. But solid fleece, no problem. And so there's so many different colors of fleece. It is so easy to find a backing. So if you've got a top and you can't match the backing, consider fleece, because to me, a solid back in fleece looks great, and a solid back with quilting cotton, I'm not a fan. But my number one reason is because it's cheap. It's cheaper. As I was just saying, quilting cotton now is like $13 a yard, right? And because it's 42 to 44 inches, you're going to need more of it, and it costs more per yard. So there's that. So it is cheaper. And then also, when you back with fleece, you can eliminate the batting. So you are eliminating the cost of the batting, and you are decreasing the cost of your backing by using fleece, because you need less of it and it costs less per yard. Because for me, I'm sure that there's some fleece out there that's expensive. I know that I'm sure there is. I'm sure you can get some fleece that's $20 a yard. But if you're just going to Joann's and you're shopping a sale, you can pick up some fleece for $4 or $6 a yard. I got some fleece Black Friday for $4 a yard. And they even have blender fleeces, like where they're kind of have that mottled, kind of grungy kind of look, kind of watercolor look. You know, they got all kinds of options. But that's why I like them. Those 4 reasons. It's easy to quilt because it doesn't require dense quilting, and because you're only keeping 2 layers together instead of 3, and that fleece for me glides really well. You need less of it because you need less seams, because it comes wider than quilting cotton. It is easier to match because it looks good even if it's a solid, and it's cheaper because you can eliminate the batting. A quilt with fleece only is heavier than a quilt with batting and a cotton backing. I promise you, it's heavier. So you actually get the benefit of, like, if you had gotten, and I normally use, like, so just to be clear, I normally use an 80-20 batting, thin 80-20 batting. So if you're using like a thick bamboo wool, of course that might be different. But standard quilting cotton for your back with warm and natural batting makes for a thinner quilt than if you skip the batting altogether and just use fleece. So those are my top 4 reasons why you might want to consider backing your next quilt with fleece. That's it for me, and I'll see you guys next video.